Hello everybody. Now this is a bit of a different video than I usually do. You know, I'm sitting down with a camera in front of me and an actual microphone. And you see, the reason for that is that today we're going to do a tier list of the LEGO Ninjago seasons. So basically what I did was I went back during quarantine and just watched all the Ninjago seasons that were on Netflix at the time. I have some thoughts on them. So as you can see here, I looked up LEGO Ninjago seasons tier list. So we're going to click on that. Okay. Amazing, great, good, alright, or meh. Alright, so I think the most appropriate place to start would be with the original season, or as people call it, the pilot season. Now this is your pretty standard Ninjago, right? You're introduced to the four main ninja. You're introduced to Nya, Sensei Wu, Spinjitzu, Garmadon, all that type of stuff. You fight the skeletons. It's pretty much Kai-centric for the most part. I feel like this is like a good baseline for what Ninjago could be. You know, you get the foundations down, and you only build on it from here. So I wouldn't say it's like meh, alright. It's definitely not amazing, so I feel like good is the best place to put it because it's that like middle road in between. So next we got Season 1, Rise of the Snakes. Now this is when people really start getting into Ninjago and really start liking it. So for most of the season you have this whole mystery of who is the Green Ninja. And so, you know, it bounces around to different people. You think it's Kai for a little bit. You think it's Zane when he asks Sensei Wu if he could be the Green Ninja someday. Then you think it's Nya because of what Sensei Wu says to Nya. And it kind of like goes through all of them, and you don't really know who the Green Ninja is going to be. And it's just really interesting because in the later seasons, they kind of focus in on one character for the season, and everybody else is there, but it's just kind of centric to one character. But this season is really like builds up the cast, and you get to really get a sense of the feel for the world of Ninjago. So that's why I think that Season 1 Rise of the Snakes is a pretty great season. Going along with that though, in Rise of the Snakes you have Pythor, who's a pretty good Ninjago villain. You have all the Serpentine tribes and stuff, and you got, most importantly, Lord Garmadon. Now, here's where a bunch of people have differing opinions about the twist of Lord Garmadon's son being the Green Ninja. Because he's a whiny piece of shit for the entirety of the first season. So why would you want a whiny piece of shit as the figurehead, or the future figurehead of Ninjago? But honestly, I think it builds on it pretty well, and even though I wasn't particularly surprised by it because I kind of saw it coming, especially when Zane had that dream where the Green Ninja had all of the elemental abilities, so it kind of implied that he has traits of all of them but wouldn't be one of the four ninja that were already established. So I think it made sense to be either Lloyd or Nya, as much as I wanted it to be Kai, and as much as most of the Ninjago fans wanted it to be Kai. But what are you gonna do? And then you have Sensei Wu, who gets eaten by the Great Devourer, and holy shit, when he gets eaten by the Great Devourer, you really think he's dead. And it's just tear wrenching because it's right at the end of the first season, and you're just like, holy shit, what is gonna happen? And they defeat the Great Devourer by Lord Garmadon coming in and taking all four golden weapons. And it's cool because it shows that Lord Garmadon isn't just a one-dimensional villain who just wants to see the downfall of everyone. He still has human in him, and it's even more elaborated on because they say that he got bit by the Great Devourer, so it shows that he didn't really have a choice whether or not he was evil, and that's why he's so angry. And when he realizes he has to fight his son, it's truly heart-wrenching. But that goes into Season 2. It's very interesting, actually. I know a lot of people don't like the first half of the season because it feels very fillery, but I think the episodes are very important to establishing Lloyd's character and him kind of progressing and learning more things. The first example that comes to mind, to me at least, is the episode where they go back to Lloyd's old school, and Lloyd is learning how to control electricity with the light bulb, and ends up saving him at the end because he learns how to do it. And Lord Garmadon interrupts their frequency, and he starts yelling at them, and then Lloyd turns it off with his electricity powers. So I think it shows the progression of Lloyd, and he's learning more and more things. But that's only the first half. The second half, I think everybody agrees, is absolutely fantastic. This is Ninjago at its absolute best. They go to this dark island. They meet up with Zane's father again, who they think is dead, which that was kind of weird that they brought him back to life, but that's besides the point. Lord Garmadon meets up with this guy called the Overlord, and you kind of suspect that the Overlord is going to be the actual villain, considering he's just kind of like puppeteering Garmadon throughout most of it. And you could tell he really doesn't want to fight his son now that Lloyd has matured, and it seems like the final battle is growing even closer than ever. Lloyd's mom is a pretty decent character. She just kind of is there to serve the plot for the most part. And holy shit, there's this one scene where Lloyd contemplates taking the shot at his father when he's weakened and striking him down right there. And then he hesitates himself, and he just walks away. But the tension in the scene is fantastic. What else is fantastic is the scene where they reach the temple. I don't remember what the name of the temple is, but it's some temple. And so what has to happen is Lloyd has to ring the bell, and then that'll activate the 4 elemental masters to give Lloyd his golden power. And the whole scene is so epic, it's so cinematic, it's so climatic, and it feels like you're approaching the end game, which you essentially are, because season 2 was supposed to be the last season. Originally, it was slated for only 2 seasons, well, 3 if you count the pilot, and so they really went all out with the finale, and it really shows. You know, you have the Overlord possessing Garmadon and Lloyd trying to fight off Garmadon. You have this huge character development for Kai, who up to this point has literally been so upset that he is not the Green Ninja. So they're going up a tower, all right? And the Overlord's at the top of the tower, and he's a dragon now. Okay, I guess he's a dragon now. That's just how it's gonna work. And so basically what happens is that the ninja lead Lloyd up the tower, and this is after Lloyd's devastating defeat, and he literally has like a brace on his leg. And so they're helping Lloyd up the steps to fight the Overlord, since he's the only one who could do it, because he's the chosen one. And then it's just Kai with Lloyd. And then Kai sacrifices himself, and then Lloyd's like, Kai, what are you doing? You gotta help me here. And Kai is like, no, I'm not the Green Ninja, you are. You gotta do this. So it's a huge character development moment for Kai, who up to this point has been such a whiny bitch about not being the Green Ninja. So now Lord Garmadon is good again. And then as we see in the next season, he becomes a sensei and so on. But that's going into next season. Season 2 of LEGO Ninjago is Ninjago at its best, and even with those filler episodes that actually seem to add a bit to the plot, in my opinion, I think Season 2 of LEGO Ninjago is definitely an amazing. Alright, so next up we have the robot season. Zane is pretty much the focus of the season as the robot, but so the Overlord comes back, which is fucking stupid. The Overlord shouldn't have came back, because it kind of defeats the whole purpose of, you know, Prophecy of the Green Ninja. But whatever. They bring the Overlord back, and he gets defeated like 3 times. And he just comes back in different ways. So you just feel like nothing of substance is happening for most of the season. And the only redeeming quality of this season is the fact that Zane sacrifices himself at the end. I think Zane's death at the end and sacrifice makes it alright, just because of how powerful it was. Now we get into what is my absolute favorite season of this show, the Tournament of Elements. It starts off, everybody's all in their own separate places. Alright, everybody is absolutely destroyed by the death of Zane. Every single person is taking it differently, but none of them are taking it good. Lloyd is trying to get the team back together. Nobody wants to come back together after Zane died. And it feels like a boy band breakup, but in the best way possible, because Lloyd is going and he's trying to communicate with all of them. Jay's like a talk show host now or something like that. Cole's working with the Lumberjacks, and you have Zane. Zane's dead, and then so you have Kai, who's like fighting in this underground tournament. Lloyd tricks all of them to go into Master Chen's noodle house to like talk it out and get the team back together, and they're all like, yeah, stick it up your ass, Lloyd. And then what happens is they chase these goons into an alleyway, and they find a picture of Zane on the wall, and then they're like, oh shit, Zane's still out there somewhere. So they go to Master Chen's island, and it's fucking insane. There's this huge tournament of elements, and you have all these elements. You got the fire, you got fire, ice, lightning, earth, power of green. But you also have like element of smoke, element of sound. You have all these different elements. Kai meets this girl, alright? Her name is Skylar, who has the power of absorbing other people's powers and using them. And so they become very close over the course of the tournament. And there's one part where Jay's forced to fight Cole, and it's so epic. It's fucking awesome. They get revved up and lash out at each other, So Jay and Cole start fighting. It's like Logan Paul and KSI, except it's actually fucking interesting. And so they start shooting at each other with all their elemental powers, and then the best part of this is because it gets rid of the bullshit love triangle that literally nobody gave a single fuck about. As soon as everybody gets taken out of the tournament, they get taken away and nobody knows what happens to them. But you see, Master Chen, alright, he's the guy who runs the tournament, and he has the staff and he's sucking the elements out of all of them. Now that Cole's out of the tournament, you get to see what's happening behind the scenes, and it's amazing. Cole meets up with Zayn. He finds out that Zayn rebuilt himself with titanium. He talks to Pixel. Pixel just got scrapped apparently, so she's just like a little AI in his head now, like Siri. And so meanwhile, you have the rest of the people in the tournament, and they're getting slowly hunted down. And then so Kai's with Skylar, and then he sees her use the power of ice at one point. And he's like, "Bro, what the hell? That's Zayn. How did you know Zayn's power?" And then he realizes that she's working for Chen. But plot twist, Skylar is actually Chen's daughter. Whoa. They all work together, but it's too late. And at the end of the season, Lord Garmadon sacrifices himself. What happens is that Garmadon gets sent to the Cursed Realm, which is where the actual Anacondri were. And so because of that, the actual Anacondri come out as ghosts, and they just fucking take all of Chen's goons away. And so that's basically the end of the season. The Tournament of Elements season goes up at amazing, and my favorite season. All right, next we have Possession, which I mean it's pretty good. I like Possession. I mean it kind of piggybacks off of the Tournament of Elements, because when the Curse Realm opened, one of the ghosts escaped, and it was this ghost named Morrow, who is the Master of Wind. Sensei Wu prematurely tells him that he could be the Green Ninja, and then he becomes obsessed with it, and then he wants to be the Green Ninja. But then he figures out that he's not the Green Ninja, and he lashes out at Sensei Wu, and he leaves him, and he never returns. And then you see that he died at a young age, so it's really sad, and you wonder what happened to him, because it doesn't really explain how he dies, but you just know that he died. And so Lloyd is pretty much MIA for the entire season, because Morrow's possessed him, and now Morrow is the Green Ninja because he possessed Lloyd. And so what you have here is you're stripped back down to Kai, Zayn, Jay, and Cole, and it's epic because it's the four of them going on good old-fashioned adventures together. Also, there's this dude named Ronan who shows up out of nowhere, and they act like he's been in previous seasons. I like Ronan, but it just doesn't make any sense. Ronan just kind of showed up out of nowhere. Ghosts are weak to water, so go figure. Nia is actually the water elemental because elemental powers are passed down through generations. Kai and Nia's parents were the Master of Fire and the Master of Water. Kai inherited the fire, Nia inherited the water. So Nia needs to harness the power of the water to defeat the ghosts, and she ends up defeating him at the end. Whoa, who could have guessed that? But yeah, so Possession, it's a pretty good season. It's definitely better than the pilot, but it's not quite as good as the first season, so it's either here or here. I'm just going to put it in great. Next, you have Skybound. Holy shit, this season is fucking underrated as hell. Jay, you know that ninja who's always just kind of been the comedic relief character? He gets his own season, and it actually is really good. It's a love story with him and Nia, and him finally getting Nia back. But there's so much more to it, and I don't even want to spoil most of it, because it's so amazing. And you have Nadakon, who's probably one of the greatest villains, and he's a genie. No, not a genie. He's called a Jinn, which is basically a genie, but they're a little more mischievous. And so basically, he wants to capture all the ninja for destroying his realm. And he has a wife that looked like Nia. So he hypnotizes Nia into marrying her. But that's later on. All right, you got Nadakon, who's picking off the ninja one by one and outsmarting them. But then you have Zayn, who Zayn is already proven himself to be pretty smart since he is a robot. So Zayn tries to outsmart Nadakon, and it's just so interesting to watch him carefully maneuver his pieces on the chessboard, physically and metaphorically, and watch him try and outsmart Nadakon, and even Zayn cannot outsmart him. And I just think that's pretty interesting. There's so much more with this season. It's just amazing. You have Jay, and you find out he's adopted. Yeah, it makes sense since neither of his parents seem to be elemental masters. And the season is just amazing. I don't want to give too much away because half of the joy of this season is from just experiencing it on your own. So it's amazing. It's not quite as good as basically the finale, and it's not as good as the Tournament of Elements, but it is definitely up there, and it's better than the first season in my opinion, because it feels like its own contained story, and it's just amazing. All right, next we have, I don't think I've ever seen Day of the Departed. All right, I just wasted about 40 minutes of my life. That was probably the worst fucking special I've ever watched. Day of the Departed, I don't even know what else to say about this. It was just lame. It makes more sense now because I never understood how Cole just magically became human again after becoming a ghost. I didn't even mention that from Possession. Yeah, Cole becomes a ghost, and that's pretty epic. And he's also a ghost in Skybound, so that kind of elevates it even more. But so, in Day of the Departed, basically you have this rush story where all of the previous villains come back. I don't even want to put this in meh. Can I add another row onto this? Garbage. Okay, and I think you know what's going in that one. All right, next you have the Hands of Time. It's just kind of meh. You have these time twins, which is such a cool concept. And so basically one of them gets taken to the future and one of them gets stuck in the past. So one of them is really old and one of them is young in the current day Ninjago. And so basically what happens is that they try to get revenge on Sensei Wu, and you think Sensei Wu's gonna freaking die by the end of the season because he's just croaking in bed like for most of the season. Yeah, the old one is just he's a fucking boomer. Like, I don't want a boomer as a villain in a TV series with Legos about ninjas. Like why the fuck would I want a boomer as one of the main villains? It just doesn't work well. I don't know. Another Kai season, but it's also a Nia season because it leans very heavily into their parents because their parents were captured by the time twins, and I don't know. It's just not as exciting. I probably don't like it as much because I think Skybound was the last one I watched like as a kid as it was airing, and then I think I just dropped off after Skybound. So maybe I just don't have any nostalgia towards Hands of Time. But I just think it's just kind of bland. Oh, this is Sons of Garmadon. This is pretty good. This is pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. Sons of Garmadon. It's pretty epic. I mean, I absolutely despise the new character designs. There was a movie that came out using them in the Lego movie style, but for some reason they decided to take those character models and put them into Ninjago. So they just changed their character models out of nowhere with no explanation. They basically make this a soft reboot, and it's even more apparent that they're basically doing a soft reboot when they recasted Lloyd's voice. And this is my problem, is that Lloyd turns into a completely different character by this point because of the voice and the appearance change. That it just doesn't seem like the Lloyd anymore from the first 7 seasons. The rest of the ninja feel relatively the same besides the way they look. Zane's design is probably the only one I actually like. Like, he's still made out of titanium, but he just kind of has a hologram thing that makes his face look human, I guess, and less robot-like. So, I mean, that's pretty cool, but that's probably it. But past the redesigns, the season as a whole is pretty good. It piggybacks off of Hands of Time, where Sensei Wu goes missing at the end, and then they find Sensei Wu as a baby, which, hey, that's pretty epic. I'm not gonna lie, it was a pretty good plot twist, because Cole's carrying after this baby for half the season, and they just think it's a random baby that this biker gang who wants to resurrect Garmadon is holding on to, but pretty much for no reason. But it turns out it's because it was Sensei Wu. And so, I don't know if they were going to try and train Sensei Wu to be bad or what. But anyway, what happens is that by the end of the season, they resurrect Lord Garmadon, and that leads into Hunted, which I like better than Sons of Garmadon, but it's probably on the same level, I guess. The reason why I don't like it is because it just feels like they rebooted Ninjago. Garmadon is back, but he actually has powers now. And oh my god, the ending was so fucking stupid. So Lloyd is without powers for most of the season because he's just so mentally distraught by the fact that his dad is back, but just the evil version of him. And so it's basically the apocalypse, and Garmadon has taken over Ninjago City. So that aspect of it is pretty cool, but that's probably where it ends for me. March of the Oni. We've had 3 seasons in a row of Lloyd and Garmadon, and honestly, I just don't give a shit at this point. I just kind of stuck this out because it was the last one on Netflix, and I just felt an obligation to watch it at that point, just because I just kind of wanted to see what happened, since Garmadon had some foreshadowing at the end of Hunted about the Oni, and so yeah, I just kind of watched it begrudgingly. Cole fucking dies though, like he falls off of the ship, and you just think he's dead, but then no, he's just not dead somehow. I have no clue what these 3 are, absolutely no idea. This is I didn't make this, obviously, But I'm just gonna assume they're absolute garbage since they come after March of the Oni, and they're not on Netflix. So I'm just gonna assume that they're bullshit. So yeah, my final ranking, so in the amazing column we have Tournament Elements, Legacy of the Green Ninja, Skybound, and then in the great column we have The Rise of the Snakes in Possession. In the good column we have the 2 reboot seasons and in the original. In the alright column we have the Robot season. In the mad column we have the Hands of Time and March of the Oni. In the absolute fucking garbage, Day of the Departed. That was such a waste of my time. I literally paused in the video just so I could go watch it. Are you fucking kidding me? And the rest of these are probably dog shit. I'm just assuming they're dog shit. Skybound was the last good Ninjago season. Hands of Time was kind of okay, but after that, it just kind of fucking dips. I mean, obviously I put these above Hands of Time, so they must be kind of decent, but like, it just feels like the show's never gonna end now. Like, honestly, if it ended at season 2, I still would have been happy. But think about it, we wouldn't have gotten Tournament Elements, and we wouldn't have gotten Jay actually getting a season. So that was pretty epic. But yeah, this is pretty much my Ninjago tier list. And if you look at it like this, it's pretty much my ranking of all the seasons. So yeah, that is the end of my Lego Ninjago tier list. So yeah, I'll post the link to it in the description in case anybody feels the need to try this out themselves. So yeah, that's pretty much it for today. Basically what I'm trying to say is, fuck Day of the Departed. And I would jump back to it again.